do you mind texting Tracy or Martha to see if there's any help they need, please?
She's been having some internet issues at her house. We can wait. I know what it's like to have internet issues.
So quiet. We're waiting for Commissioner Schrader. We'll start shortly. Christine, any luck?
No luck getting a hold of her.
Is anybody texting her?
I'm texting Tracy right now.
Okay.
Tracy is in the attendees list.
Okay, and who else, Garrett, is in the attendees list?
Kimberly is too. Maybe between Kimberly and Tracy, could you please see if Commissioner Schrader needs any support to join the meeting, please? Staff is on it.
And I'm keeping an eye out for her in the attendees list every now and then. She'll jump in there. So I will go ahead and send her a new link just in case.
Okay.
Would you like to wait, Chair, or get started?
Well, according to my clock, it says 6:03. Is there anything wrong with waiting to 6:05?
Not at all.
Okay, let's go at 6:05. And if it's internet issues, she's probably like, stressed out. So we can wait if you guys don't care. I mean, we're home, right?
Yeah, we could do a survey on what kind of shoes are on all of our feet. How many people are in slippers?
Let's raise a hands of slippers.
Hey.
Love that. I love that.
Okay, Gary, I think you're lying.
I'm just wearing socks. I have no shoes.
Okay. Martha.
There's Martha.
Here I am.
Hey there. Okay, we are
All right.
ready to go.
Ready? Thank you. I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late, guys.
Don't worry about it. No big
Yep.
deal. We're all home safe and sound.
Good.
Call to order the February 11, 2021 business meeting of the of Clackamas County. Administrator Gary Schmidt, please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. First, our staff support tonight, Christina Twilliger, Clerk to the Board, Stephen Madcore, County Counsel, from Public and Government Affairs, Garrett Teague and Rich Marvin, helping with the technical support tonight. Roll call, Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here, all present. I will now lead the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We are holding this meeting virtually. If you've joined us on the Zoom app for this meeting, comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. With that in mind, I would like to remind all participants, including staff, elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Order will be enforced in this meeting. The board welcomes public opinions from all points of view. Gary, would you please introduce the first item?
Yes, Chair. First, we have a wildfire update. We have Nancy Bush, Director of Disaster Management and Incident Commander of our Emergency Operations Center, to present. Please go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you and good evening, everyone.
So I'm going to talk a lot about the long-term recovery group that we have here in Clackamas County, and a lot of progress has happened in the last few weeks. So right now, Clackamas County, the long-term recovery group is an incorporated public benefit in Oregon. So it took us a while to get that, but that means things are going to move rather quickly now at this point. Their top priorities are including they need to write their bylaws, approval of fiscal sponsorship agreement, and development of policies and procedures for the group. The state has been awarded the disaster care management grant, which also falls into the long-term recovery group. And we are currently working with a disaster case manager at the state level to incorporate them into the group so we can determine what many of our families are needed that were impacted by the wildland fires. The disaster management, we're hosting a interdepartmental recovery meeting because we want to make sure that we're taking a look at everything inside the county and how that can help for the long-term recovery care. And so we have invitees that include BCS, DTD, H3S, Tourism, PGA, and FEMA. So you'll probably be hearing a lot more as we move forward on that. Our debris management, of course, is moving along quickly. I want to thank the commissioners for all of your support there. I know we had some things that came to you pretty quickly. You had to review quickly, and we got them out the door. You'll be signing this evening the amendment that we have for Tetra Tech and bringing them on in the next couple of weeks, and they'll be working with us as well as ODOT as we start the public removal as well as the private removal of debris. February 14th is the deadline for the damage. So we did have a meeting today, our finance department did, with FEMA to go through everything we have because we really didn't want to wait until Sunday to get all that sent in. So next week, I will have more numbers for you on our damage that we're turning in. The numbers will be a little high just because you do shoot just a little high because we know some things either may not be approved or it may cost a little less than what we thought it was going to, but we'll have some numbers for you on that next week. Our after action report is well underway, and we have a lot of surveys that are out in our community, a lot of the partners, just looking at the EOC and where can we improve, what things went well. And then after the survey is done, we're also working on actually pulling together like debriefings with certain, we're grouping them. So we have like cities. So we'll do the cities that were directly impacted, then the other cities that were mostly part of the windstorm. We are working with those who worked on logistics, law enforcement. So we'll have several groups that we're doing interviews and debriefings on as well as we move forward with the after action report and get some actionable items there as well. So that is my wildland fire report for today.
Thanks, Nancy. Gary, what's up next?
Yeah, first, commissioners, do you have any questions for Nancy? Not seeing any. Okay. Next is COVID-19 update. Nancy will also provide this update. Please go ahead, Nancy.
All right, thank you. Christina, could you bring up the slideshow, please? So Philip Mason Joyner cannot be here this evening, so you just have me this evening. So we have some really exciting news this week. So next slide, please. For our COVID update, our metrics have changed from extreme risk to high risk, which also includes Washington County and Multnomah County. You'll see here that we went to 185.2 from 203.1 last week, and our percentage of test positivity is 4.7. So that is great news. Next slide, please. So some of the changes that you're going to see, I apologize, I know this is a little small, but there are, so we are going from that extreme risk. So you see that in red, we're going to the high risk. And the next slide, please. There are a few things that I just want to highlight that are changes. So the indoor eating and gyms and fitnesses and indoor recreation is 25% of capacity or 50 people maximum. And there are some other things too, like offices can open and Oh, and some of the outdoor activities and the numbers that you can have in the outdoor activities, those have changed as well. And you can go to the OHA website to see all of those changes. We've had a lot of conversations in the EOC this week, especially with our gyms and our restaurants. And some of them are asking for like hand sanitizer. Some of them may want face coverings, which we also have that they can get through us. And if you just go to our website, if you're listening and you need some of those things as you're opening your doors, just go to clackamas.us/COVID, or I'm sorry, coronavirus. And that will take you to our page and you will see there where you can order those things from us. So we have a lot of activity going on. We're very excited to see this happening. And we just want to encourage everyone to continue to do the things that we're doing now because we don't want to go back and close again and get into that extreme level. Next slide, please. So yes, for our COVID cases, we have the US and Oregon here. Again, we're almost at 27 million for the US, and here in Oregon, over 147,000 with over 2,000 deaths. Next slide, please. So here in Clackamas County, we have almost 13,000 cases. Multnomah County has almost 31,000, and Washington County has 20,000. And you can see the death count there as well as 154 for Clackamas, 485 for Multnomah County, and 194 for Washington County. And again, all of the 3 counties are trending down at this time. Next slide, please. Yes, you will see here, we had that little bump last week to 477, but fortunately we did come down to 292 this week. So we were really excited to see that. Next slide, please. And our hospital capacity has been holding steady. We still have, you see that yellow bar at the bottom of the bar, it tends to be pretty steady and actually has been climbing slightly in the last several days, 2 or 3, 4 days. And you do see some dips in there in the capacity of how many beds are available or staffed. So you like to see that 329 on 26, and then it goes down to 316 and then back up to 330. Again, that is on staffing levels. It is not physical rooms, it's actually staffing levels for what they have there at the hospital. Next slide, please. So the COVID positive patients in Oregon is, and this is Northwest Oregon, our hospitals here in our region 1, again, is trending down, which is a trend that we like to see. And of course, the fewer cases that we're seeing, we should see a trend in this area. Next slide. So just real briefly, some notes here that we have for vaccines. We continue to struggle because we don't have enough vaccine. And this past week on Monday, individuals that are 80 years and older are eligible for vaccine. And they must register, anyone who's getting it must register and have an appointment. We do realize here in Clackamas County, the chair and I have had this conversation that many of our seniors don't have access to a computer, don't have access to make the appointment. So we are encouraging all of you to please check on your neighbors. If you know someone who is elderly, check on them. You might be able to help them. Please do that by phone, of course. But we're hoping that neighbors can help them. And we also have been helping those that have been calling in and asking questions. A lot of the questions are around whenever are we going to, I don't want to go to the convention center, which is where most of the vaccine is being distributed right now for that age group. We certainly understand that. And as we get more vaccine into the county, we are planning to either have clinics or with the pharmacies to have that more locally in rural areas as well as in some of the more metropolitan and urban areas as well. Here we have over 27,000 Pfizer doses that have been given here in Clackamas, 24,000 Moderna. And so we have 51,000 that we have done here through Clackamas County in our clinics. And we are still working on 1A and 1B for the doses that we are getting. So hopefully we're hearing that we're going to be getting a lot more doses in the next few weeks, and we'll be able to open this up more and get more to the seniors, and then start working through the different levels that have been provided to us by OHA and CDC. Next slide, please. And that is all I have for COVID this evening.
Nancy, thanks for the report. I have a question. Is the website to register seniors in this age group, is it working okay?
It has been working okay. We have noticed and heard that it goes down occasionally, but not a lot. And when it does go down, they get it up very quickly.
Oh, well, I guess I must have hit it at the wrong time. I'm trying to get my 88-year-old father registered for the vax. And yesterday we had a phone call with the governor, and she recommended 3 things to do. I did all 3, and I couldn't get in through the website for him on that. So and that is a question that I get asked a lot. And you know, all of us do, you know.
Yes.
So that's
yes.
nothing that's new.
Mhm. Well, and
Okay.
it's really frustrating too, because you have to go through all of the steps until you find out if even there is an appointment available. So that also is
Well, and
frustrating
I
for
think
the population.
And I think that's what happened. I went through all the steps and there was no appointments available. So I don't understand the messaging that's happening. If there's no appointments available, why are they continuing to tell people to go to the website to do it? Because I called the doctor, the governor says, well, call your doctor. Call his doctor. They haven't got a clue. Call 211. Nothing on there. Go on the website. No appointments available. And I picked the Portland Airport and the Convention Center. No appointments available. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell. I don't know what to tell. You know, my dad says, okay, fine, whatever. You know, he says, you know, he kind of laughed and said, but a lot of people, you know, are really kind of worried about it.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. And we have actually talked about this. It's like, so should we start doing some messaging saying, well, we know that all of the appointments are full. But then what happens, sometimes we found out that sometimes it's like, oh, we're going to give you 500 more doses. Then they, you know, but so we don't want to tell people to not go look when
know.
they may get more doses. I certainly understand the frustration.
Well, thanks for keeping us posted on that. I know our Public and Government Affairs Department is doing more messaging now that we've lowered a risk level to continue to keep up the good efforts, because we don't want to go back up. Washington County, Multnomah County, and Clackamas County are trying to send out the same messages and be very consistent in that, because, you know, it's just awful going to extreme levels. And we want to continue the downward trend. And I think our people have just been very responsive and very helpful in getting those levels down. Thanks a lot, Nancy.
Yes, thank you.
Any questions for Nancy? Oh, Sonia.
Chair Smith. Hey, I think I have 3 questions. I appreciated the information from going to extreme risk to high risk and 25% capacity, and that offices are encouraged to work virtually, but can now open. Curious about the social gatherings, or when you go to a restaurant, is there guidance around how many households can gather? Are there limits? I know under extreme risk, there was, you know, no more than 6 people, one other household. Is there any more guidance around that?
No, that guidance stays the same, and it's a guidance, right? You really shouldn't be mixing more than 2 households. Restaurants aren't going to ask that question. You know, they're going to seat people. You know, and the guidance is still a recommendation, I should say. The recommendation is, you know, that you don't have more than 6 people together. You don't have more than 2 households. And, you know, just be careful in the groups that you're in.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification. You said that there were 51 doses of the vaccine for Clackamas County. Is that include what went out through Kaiser and the other health providers, or is that just us Clackamas County health clinics? And
the 51,000
doses of the vaccine.
I was sorry to say, I don't think 51,000. That is what came to Clackamas County, and it's a mixture of Moderna and Pfizer.
Right, but is that because different healthcare facilities like Kaiser and OHSU, or, I mean, is that what was distributed at like the Kaiser Sunnyside?
No, that's what came to Clackamas, to the government, Clackamas County Health Center.
Okay, so that's not the number of how many Clackamas County residents have been vaccinated. That's just how many doses came to the government.
So that's doses administered so far.
But not for people. Do we know how many people have been vaccinated?
You mean for 1 and 2 dose?
Or either, yeah.
So the 51K, let's see here. You know what? I don't have that number. I can get that back to you. It's hard to tell. We don't know how many in the county have been vaccinated because we don't know for sure what, Kaiser's doing, and Kaiser has people coming to them from Multnomah County, et cetera.
Right.
But we do know what we have done with Clackamas County's doses.
Okay,
So I
but
need to find out.
we don't know how many overall doses went to Clackamas County residents, and we have all the long-term care facilities that were done through a different.
We don't have that. We don't have a way to gather that.
So the actual people vaccinated or doses are probably much higher than 51,000 at this point. Those aren't included in that.
Right. This is just what we at Clackamas County have control.
Okay, thank
Does
you
that
for
make
that. I
sense?
just
Okay.
wanted to know that. And then I have my last question, and it's right on what Chair Smith was talking about regarding people who are older, and I know how hard this is. Has there been any talk about, for folks, when they finally get to 211 and actually get to a real person, or they finally get on the website, is there any talk about doing wait lists, and then people can be notified? They could have an option of getting the next available appointment, and then they could be notified. Is there any talk about building that into our system?
I can tell you what we're doing here at Clackamas County. We have people calling into our PIC, our Public Inquiry Center, and also sending emails to our COVID vaccine at clackamas.us. At Clackamas County, we are collecting some information from them. And so we have staff that we're getting ready to, when we have more vaccine, to call them back and help them go through the system. So that's what we're doing here in Clackamas County. That is not being done statewide necessarily, but we really felt here in Clackamas County, it's like we have to be able to, get the information and, help with some of the frustration, and just say, yes, we're going to call you back and help you, whatever that system may look like in a few weeks.
Yeah, that is great. I would just like to see it more streamlined at the state system so that people just aren't struggling. I mean, it would be great if, Chair Smith's trying to get our 88-year-old dad just in queue. It's like if you go through all that, and it's a lot. I know, I watched my husband do it for his parents. And you need all this personal information because they want to verify that it's you, and they needed a mortgage information. I mean, they tie it to your credit score or credit report, I guess, is what they're doing. It's a lot. You just can't help your neighbor get a vaccine, is what I'm saying. You need a lot of personal information to get it set up. So it'd be really nice if you go through all of that, you could just get on a list, get on a wait list, get in queue. And it seems like that could be systemized. And I'm not sure if we should make this recommendation through AOC or
Believe me, Commissioner Fisher, believe me, there were about 40 county commissioners on Zoom with the governor yesterday, and she got an earful.
Okay, so she got that one about wait lists.
Yeah, go ahead, have at it. And she has heard that. So
Okay, well, our collective voice is better than just individual. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for that. And
You
so,
bet.
Nancy, if there's anything that our public health or you and your conversations with your emergency folks can
Well,
just
one of
help
the
with
things,
that, that'd be great.
we just had a meeting today, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Chair Smith about this, but Chair Smith had turned my name in to the governor's office to work with like Nike, Starbucks, and some others to talk about what can we do better and kind of meshing that public health system with that private side. And that is going to be a part of our conversations. We had a meeting yesterday and today. We have two over the weekend and on Monday. And then hopefully we will have something after that point that I hope will have these kind of recommendations in it. So I will definitely keep the board updated on that as I learn more over the weekend.
Thanks for doing that, Nancy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Commissioner Schrader, how do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, how are you guys? So Nancy, I just have a quick question because I've been reading in the some articles stating that they were going to be sending vaccines to Safeway, Costco, places of that sort. Is that verified?
Eventually, that is what is going to be happening, and Clackamas County Public Health has been a part of that and helping to identify where those pharmacies, they're actually through pharmacies, and where the vaccine would be going. But eventually, that is the plan.
But we don't have a date for that. You don't have a date.
No, because we don't have a vaccine yet.
So it really is a supply chain issue
It
overall.
is. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but yes,
No, it is supply chain.
it is a supply chain.
And do we know which, who of the pharmas is doing the best in terms of amping up their production? Do we know?
Well, they all are.
They all-
Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson is, I think, very close to getting approved.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, just want to say that I know a number of people that from Clackamas County that tried to dial 211 or get connected with the county, and some made it and some connected with and got their schedule or appointment in Portland. So I think the tracking will be very difficult, because if you watch the news on TV, people are being drawn to either the convention center and places like that are in Portland. So I think people are going to be scrambling. So I don't know that it will be very easy to track how many people in Clackamas County are getting their shots, unless, of course, there's this one central database that we can draw from. And I don't necessarily see that happening anytime soon, but it'd be great. But I don't know that we can.
We can't do it at this time.
Right.
We don't have that. Yeah, we don't have the way to do it. That's correct.
Is that all the questions for Nancy Bush? Thanks, Nancy, for answering our questions.
All right, thank you.
Gary, will you please introduce the next item?
Yes, thank you also, Nancy. Next, we have two public hearings, commissioners, and Christina, if you would please bring in Ken Martin. The first public hearing is approval of a board order for boundary change proposal CL 20-003, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1. Ken Martin is Clackamas County's boundary consultant, and he will present the item. Ken, please go ahead after you unmute yourself.
Ken, you can press *6 to unmute yourself if you're on your phone.
All right, Ken, we still cannot hear you.
Let's see.
We'll just wait.
Okay, let me try and give him a text also.
Yeah, we'll just tell them we're waiting. I mean, hey, that's the way it is, right?
And Christina, if Nate Boderman's in the audience, maybe bring him in as well, please.
Okay, that sounds good. Oh, I see Ken just unmuted himself.
It takes a minute.
Okay.
Okay, this is another annexation to CCSD number 1, which is in the city of Happy Valley. Every time we have an annexation to the city, they have to get into the district so that they can get access to the sewers. This is a 4.81 acre piece. It doesn't have a particular development proposal in front of the city of Happy Valley yet, but that will be eventually developed with residential properties. The sewer is available through the district through its contract with Wes, and that's available on the southern end of the property. We'd recommend approval.
Thank you, Ken. Do commissioners have any comments or clarifying questions? Are there any hands raised on Zoom?
I'm sorry, Chair. I actually wrote the script incorrectly. If you can open the public comment or public hearing, I can.
I will open the public
Sorry.
hearing and ask for Christina to moderate this portion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Now is the time for comment on this specific topic. If you have a comment, you can use the raise hand feature on Zoom, or if you're calling in by phone and want to give comment, you can hit *9 now. Again, this is just for this specific public hearing. We will have general comment later on in the meeting. Let's see. So I do have a hand raised and I will go ahead and allow them to talk. Mr. Singh, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, this is for this specific public comment.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So dear Clackamas County Board of Commissioners, my name is Jayraj Singh. I work as the Clackamas County Chapter Director for a statewide nonprofit organization, and I identify as South Asian American Punjabi Sikh. I'm currently working on 3 different projects within Clackamas County, and all of these projects have been negatively impacted by Commissioner Mark Shaw's words.
Okay.
His actions.
Mr. Singh, I'm actually going to stop you just for 1 second. This is public comment for the boundary change proposal.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
And I'll ask for public comment later for general comment. But if you have any comment about the boundary change proposal, we can take that now.
Okay. I'll talk later.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. We'll come back to you later. I do not see any other hands. So
Thank you, Christina.
Yeah.
Did I hear somebody? Nope. Okay, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Chair Smith, I move we approve the board order for boundary change proposal CL 20-003, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1.
Do I
Second.
hear a second? Thank you, Martha. The motion that has been moved by Commissioner Schull and seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
All right, Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you. Gary, what's next?
Next is a second public hearing is approval of a board order for boundary change proposal CL 20-004, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1. Ken Martin will present as well. Please go ahead, Ken.
This is another single lot annexation to the district. Again, in the city of Happy Valley, the property owners have petitioned to get sewers to their existing dwelling, and we'd recommend approval.
Do the commissioners have any questions or comments? I will now open a public hearing and ask for Christina to moderate this portion.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Now is time for comment on this specific topic. If anyone has a comment, you can use the raise hand feature on Zoom, or if you're calling in by phone, press *9. We'll give them just a couple minutes or a couple seconds. And I don't see any hands raised, Chair.
Oh, okay. Any comments from commissioners? I don't see any. I will close the public hearing on this topic and ask for a motion.
Chair Smith, I move we approve the board order for boundary change proposal CL 20-004, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1.
Second.
The motion has been moved by Commissioner Schull and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Excellent. Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye, and the motion has passed. Gary, what's up next?
Great. Thank you to Ken Martin and Nate Boderman for being available. We'll move on next to the consent agenda. All of these items have been reviewed by you commissioners already on a Tuesday issue session. Christina, will you please read the consent agenda?
Sorry, I'm trying to pull it up online so we can show it as I'm reading it. And of course, it wants to be difficult. So we will go ahead and share this. All right, so your consent agenda for today with Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of intergovernmental agreement number 168033 with the state of Oregon acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for Crisis Counseling Program Services. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Canby and the Community Development Division for an ADA ramp improvements project. Approval of to accept a grant award with the Bureau of Justice Assistance for Adult Drug Court and Veterans Treatment Court Discretionary Grant Program. Approval to apply for a continuation grant for Oregon Department of Transportation 5311 Rural Formula Funds for operations funding for the Mount Hood Express. Under Department of Transportation and Development, approval of a cooperative agreement or improvement agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Clackamas Regional Center Mobility Improvement Project. Under elected officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes. For technology services, approval of amendment number 2 for the service level agreement with Metro Area Joint CAD system for dark fiber connection from CBX Tri-City Hub to the Clackamas County 911 communications. Approval for a service level agreement between Clackamas Broadband Exchange and the Lake Oswego School District for dark fiber services. Approval for a service level agreement between Clackamas Broadband Exchange and Lightspeed Networks for a dark fiber connection. Under Department of Human Resources, approval of a contract with Mercer Health and Benefits LLC for the employee benefits broker. And under disaster management, amendment number 1 to the contract between Tetra Tech Inc. for debris monitoring and management services. This amendment authorizes up to $228,000. The proposed task order permits up to $182,820 for debris monitoring services through August 15th of 2021. Clackamas County expects to receive a 75% cost share in Stafford Act public assistance, reducing the county's net cost for the service to $45,700 for the task order and up to $57,000 if fully authorized amount is spent. And that is your consent agenda.
Thank you, Christina. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? I'll take a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Christina, please call the poll.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
And the motion passes. Thank you, Christina. Up next is public communication. I will call for statements from the public regarding issues relating to county government. It is the intention that this portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the objective of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comment shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. However, we will not be reading them at the business meeting due to time constraints. I would also like to point out that starting next week, registration to attend Zoom meetings will be taken. This is for your security as well as ours. If you would like to give public comments starting next week, You will need to register before the meeting starts. There will be more information on this later. Christina, would you like to start the public comment? And how many do we have in the queue to testify tonight?
Thank you, Chair Smith. It looks like I'm letting people, give them a little time to use the raise hand feature or *9 if you're on Zoom. It looks like, let's see. We have 17 people with their hands raised. Alrighty, so we will just start with the top of the list. Sorry about that. It looks like the first up will be Chris Waller. Chris, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Tootie, you have a fundamental misunderstanding of why the outcry over Mr. Shull continues and who is responsible. We aren't speaking out week after week because this is political. We are speaking out because this is a grave injustice. This man has harmed so many with his actions that over 50 community groups, 2 newspapers, and 150 community leaders have called for him to step down. You all asked him to step down. Every department in the county asked him to step down, but in his arrogance and stubbornness, he has refused. It is not the people of this county who are expressing their opinions to you, their elected official, who is at fault. It is Mr. Shull. It is not us who are causing such a loss of morale at the county that people are leaving or feel trapped in their jobs, a true matter of county business. It is Mr. Shull. It is not us who are causing the disruption to your meeting. It is Mr. Shull. Had he stepped down, as an honorable politician would have done when such gross misbehavior was revealed, we wouldn't be here. Yet what is the response of the chair of this board? You gave lip service to removing Shull, but now you seek to protect him by squelching the speech you do not want to hear, like the recommendation of your own budget committee to cut Shull's salary and limiting the only way the public can speak in front of their commissioners. Tootie, maybe some of your own words are in order. This is a recording of you at the Gubsurd Neighborhood Association.
There's nothing more valuable to me than hearing from the people and what they want, what they like, what they don't like out of their representatives.
And this is you talking to the League of Women Voters.
Well, we get a lot of people that come before the commission and talk to us. And it's their one opportunity for them to be able to spout off about government. And I think that's important to let them steam and vent and let us know.
And this is you talking to the Oregon Republican Party Captive Audience Show.
And people need to know that they can stand up to their government.
It's strange how your words change when the speech isn't what you want to hear. Kind of like your claim you are nonpartisan. Here you are at a Republican event, the Gathering of the Eagles.
I was proud to become the first elected Republican conservative woman to be elected to the board of Clackamas County.
You cannot make this problem go away by silencing us, and it is not your constituents who deserve your rage. Mark Shull must step down. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chris. We'll go ahead and move on to the next. Ashley Carroll, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, Chair Smith and fellow commissioners. My name is Ashley Carroll, and I use she, her pronouns. I am a current Multnomah County employee and Clackamas County resident. 5 years ago, I was a Clackamas County employee working to serve domestic violence victims in a leadership role at a Safe Place Family Justice Center. I worked under John Ludlow and Tootie Smith and found the experience so frustrating, stressful, and demoralizing that I left Clackamas for an environment that actually embraces equity and inclusion, as well as policies and platforms that are consistent, innovative, and reasonable. My tenure under the Clackamas County Tea Party regime was so intense for me that I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder stemming from early life experiences and triggered by a hostile work environment. Which brings me to Mark Shull. As a PTSD survivor and warrior, I am appalled that Mr. Shull has attributed his comments and beliefs to experiences he had during his military career and subsequent PTSD. I have used my experience and diagnoses to speak truth about mental health. As a NAMI Clackamas board member and also a young adult speaker, I went into middle schools and high schools to dispel harmful myths about mental illness like those that Mark Scholl is perpetrating and perpetuating. Mark Scholl's xenophobic and racist comments have no place in the public sphere, much less from a politician tasked with representing all residents. Additionally, Scholl has shown little remorse and cannot even offer an adequate apology. Mark Scholl needs to resign immediately. Lastly, to the county employees undoubtedly impacted by the callousness and ineptitude of the most recent Tootie and Company show, my heart goes out to each of you in the cloud of helplessness that has likely descended upon departments and units already stressed by a global pandemic. Clackamas County doesn't need this. Resign or be recalled. Your choice, Scholl and Smith. Thank you.
You, Ashley. Go ahead and move on to the next in the list. Claire Clock. Go ahead and unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes. Claire, are you there? Cannot hear you. I'm gonna go ahead and put you back over into our list and I'll get back to you. Mr. Singh, if you go ahead and unmute yourself, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Dear Clackamas County Board of Commissioners, my name is Jayraj Singh. I use he, they pronouns. I work as the Clackamas County Chapter Director for a statewide nonprofit organization, and I identify as South Asian American Punjabi Sikh. I'm currently working on 3 different projects within Clackamas County, and all of these projects have been negatively impacted by Commissioner Mark Scholl's words. His actions have disrupted my work and has diverted our chapter's focus on important community building issues. As a person of color who works with historically marginalized and oppressed communities in Clackamas County, and who has been economically and psychologically harmed by Commissioner Mark Scholl's ignorant words and behaviors, I demand that he resigns for the sake of the county's safety and prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Go ahead and move on to the next in the line. We're going to try and bring Claire back over. So Claire Clock, go ahead and unmute
There.
yourself.
I guess I'm on now. Okay.
Oh, perfect. There you go. Now you have 3
Right.
minutes.
Trying to figure out this the screen. It doesn't say anything about unmute or turn on the video. So excuse me. I'm Claire Clock, Clackamas Soil and Water Conservation District, Chair Smith and members of the commission. I was going to check in just to say how the conservation district was doing, and just to remind you that the district is open and willing to help out with county or questions that you might come from the residents of the county. We just recently got a new district manager, and so he's learning the office and the workings of the office, and he should be addressing you in the future. But actually, there is something else that's come up, and it has to be with excuse me, House Bill 3092. And this is something that is really apropos to Clackamas County, in that 3092 is asked for funding of remediation for domestic well owners that were affected by groundwater area of concern in the Harney Basin. Well, I'll have to tell you, for the last 15 to 20 years, we've had groundwater concerns in Clackamas County, and this should be apply to the areas of groundwater, restricted groundwater in Clackamas County, because I can't tell you how many people that I have talked to that have either happened to deepen their wells or have had to dig new wells because of groundwater concerns. The reason for this, maybe not, it's both maybe agriculture, but it's also the amount of housing that goes in a particular rural residential areas or non-residential. And so, you know, you can only can put so many straws in a glass, and you're going to run it dry. But what I'm saying is that on a statewide basis, we have 4 groundwater concerned areas in Clackamas County. Those people should also have the option of getting aid in deepening or getting their wells re-drilled if they have. And there's also groundwater concerns in the rest of the state. So we can couch it in the fact that it needs to be done all over the state, and it's not just a new thing that happens that happened in the Clarny, or excuse me, in the Harney Basin. With that, I think that's all I have right now, other than, no, that's it. So any
Well,
questions?
Claire, I want to thank you for calling in and letting us know about House Bill 3092. I live in a farm where we have a well, and there's a lot of wells around it. In fact, my neighbor next door is a hydrologist and who deals in this very issue and is always talking to me about the groundwater situation in Clackamas County and really in Oregon. And what I'll do is I'll contact our PGA staff to let them know of your concerns and quite possibly reach out to you at the Conservation District. Now, this is the place on Beaver Creek Road, correct?
Yes, it is.
That's that new structure that you built. I drive by it every day on my way to work. So
There you
Claire,
go. Also,
thank you for reaching out.
Chair Smith, there is a hearing next week in the Water Committee, House Water Committee on this bill. So if they could, it's time sensitive. And so if they could get on it, that would be great. Be glad to answer questions.
Well, great. I don't have any questions for you because I am not familiar with the bill, but we will have our staff check it out. We have staff at the legislature watching bills that are important to Clackamas County. We will let them know. As a person from the Conservation District, you called in and voiced a concern about that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners, do you have any other questions for? Okay, I guess he's gone.
Oh, I'm sorry, I took him off. If anybody has any questions, I can easily bring him back.
No, well, we can reach out to him. Thanks, Christina.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the next on list is Elvis Clark. Elvis, go ahead and unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, commissioners. I live in Milwaukee, Oregon, and I heard just recently, like yesterday, that there is a conversation among the board to put the child property tax levy back on the ballot this May potentially, but I was raising some concerns in an email I sent to you that you might have received today, that I think the public process should be a little bit more robust and allow for more engagement from the public than it might be allowed in just the next 2 weeks, if that's your deadline. First, we would want to know for the public, from the public side, what is being proposed and why, and the merits of it, and that. And then we would want another subsequent chance to have feedback to the board. And these things might take some time to sufficiently voice our public input. So I just wanted to let that email, I hope you will consider it. And anyways, thank you.
Elvis, I'm going to have our county administrator address your concerns and maybe kind of clear up what's going on.
Okay.
Yes, Sheriff. So the children's safety levy is not being considered to go back on the ballot right now. The commissioners this week talked about the sheriff's public safety levy, which is up for its 5-year renewal this year. And the board is considering, at the sheriff's request, to perhaps increase the amount of the levy. The board will be discussing this coming Tuesday in a work session to go over all the proposals and details and determine if they want to go forward. So that is what they are discussing, not the children's safety levy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got mixed up. It was the sheriff's public safety levy that I was concerned about. I just don't think the public process is being given enough chance to respond to the increased proposal. And that's, so I hope you would maybe defer the thing to November if you could, or at least give us two chances to first know what you're proposing and why, and also the benefits of it, and then give us a chance to give our feedback on it subsequently. Thank you.
Mr. Clark, thank you for that. This is a request from our sheriff, who is an independently elected official, and she has brought that before the board. Gary, can you explain why the deadlines are coming up and why the sheriff wants this on the May ballot?
Yes, the sheriff is interested in a May 2021 ballot for the proposed increase, because if the voters determine they are not supportive of the increase, that would give the county and the sheriff one more chance to go to the voters in November at a straight renewal at the same amount as it is now. If we were to wait until November with an increase and that failed by the voters, then the levy would end, and then that would cause great harm to the financial stability of the sheriff's office in 2022. So that's the intent of going to the voters in May with the proposed increase, knowing there's a second opportunity in November should the voters reject the increase in May.
Thank you, Gary. Commissioner Savas, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it occurred to me when the caller raised this point that in light of this and the children's levy, not that I'm assigning any blame or anything like that, but it did occur to me that it is a good point that allowing the public adequate time for process would be, if it's feasible, it would be the ideal situation. And I think that the administrator kind of explained the situation here. And with the change of the new sheriff and so forth, I think there's probably a unique situation here. Sheriff got sworn in, the new sheriff got sworn in January, so she's had very little time to put this all together. So unique situation, very good point. I think that's something we should consider going forward when it comes to any other future ballot measures, if we have that opportunity to be more thoughtful and more engaging with the public. So thank you.
Go ahead, Christina, next caller.
Excellent. Thank you, Elvis. We'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Now, this one is, the name is Proxy for County Employee. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know your name.
Thank you,
And have 3
Christina.
minutes. Of course.
My name is Michael, and I actually have 2 statements to read. One is from a county employee who wishes to remain anonymous due to repercussions. I am a county employee, and I can tell you morale is low. Certain factions of employees already feel emboldened by Shul and Tootie being in their positions. Lots of people are thinking about leaving or already have. I had to introduce myself to a work group call last week with 30+ other professionals as being the new representative from Clackamas County, and it was humiliating. I am furious and can't decide whether to leave or dig my heels in and fight these guys. The second statement is from a constituent in West Lynn, Ramey Wells and John Wells. My husband and I have lived in West Lynn for almost 8 years and are still adjusting to life in Oregon. To say we are concerned by the comments made by Member Shul and his record of domestic violence is an understatement. I'm appalled and frightened the Republicans of Oregon ran this candidate in the first place. I didn't know I needed to do a full background check on Republican county commissioner nominees, and now, frankly, any Republican who runs here. Add to this the racist remarks he made so freely publicly as a policymaker that are dangerous and incite the worst in people. As an educator, many of my students were excused on Fridays for prayer service. Many of my colleagues practice a variety of religions, including Islam. I accommodated fasting days for my students and brought in extra water for them on those days. Scholl's comments are xenophobic and racist, but also idiotic, old, and tired. They represent the worst of America. When I read his comments, I see my former students, students who worked hard in school and in their faith. It is something I will always respect and admire. As it stands today, this body is unable to do its work successfully because Scholl refuses to resign. He can hold his views in private life. He doesn't get to make decisions for me, a woman who grew up in domestic violence, or the people of color who live and work here. How could he? He hates us all and openly preaches it online and in his own private life. If this board supports Scholl, I'll assume each and every one of you also do not care about your citizens, the citizens you serve. And to think, instead of removing Scholl, Tootie Smith wants to remove public voice, stripping us of our right to public comment in meetings. That is not democracy. Mark Scholl needs to be an adult and a citizen and resign. He has made this board ineffective and untrustworthy, making many of us question the need for a board at all, frankly. I see my time is up.
Yes.
I will submit the rest in writing.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to the next. I believe it's Ellie Cole. You can unmute yourself and then you'd have 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Ellie Cole. I'm a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I've been a small business owner here in Milwaukee for 5 years. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I would like to address Mr. Scholl directly. I emailed you asking you to step down, and you emailed me back, clearly stating that you will not. And I believe you. I also believe in democracy, and I believe in free and fair elections. And you were elected in a free and fair election. The people of Clackamas County, however, did not have all the information we needed about you to make an informed choice. Now we do, and clearly we aren't happy about what we've learned about you. You've complained about cancel culture, and I have to admit that I agree with you on this one, Mr. Scholl. I think cancel culture does not allow an opportunity for the canceled person to learn, to grow, to change, and to evolve. If you are not going to step down, Mr. Scholl, then step up. Step up your learning about racial equality, the effect that white supremacy has on our community, and on your own racial conditioning, and how that colors your everyday decisions. Step up and evolve. If you're not going to step down, Mr. Scholl, then step up. Step up your willingness to befriend people that don't look like you or worship like you do. Step up your courage to ask them what it feels like to be hated by someone who is supposed to represent them. If you're not going to step down, Mr. Scholl, then step up. Step up and be a leader who is of service to his community, who serves everyone, including the most vulnerable among us. Not just white people, not just rich people, not just people with power. Step up and serve with an open heart. If you're not going to step down, Mr. Scholl, and I believe that you won't, then step up. Thank you for letting me have my voice heard tonight.
Thank you very much. We will go ahead and move on to Mitra. Mitra, if you can unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Mitra Anusharavani. I have made previous testimony in which I have called for Mark Scholl to resign. I still stand by that. But tonight, my testimony is directed at the rest of the commissioners. I imagine listening to public testimony is one of the harder parts of your job, particularly when it's inconvenient and disagreeable. With the exception of Commissioner Fisher, all of you have spoken in some regard against those showing up to share their conviction of the necessity of Commissioner Scholl's resignation. Some of those words have been explicit condemnation of the efforts, like Chair Smith calling the efforts, quote unquote, disgusting earlier this week. And others have urged moderation and allowing Commissioner Scholl a chance. Some of that criticism alleges those calling for Commissioner Scholl's resignation are impeding the work of the county, I'd like to remind you that all 5 commissioners voted in favor of Commissioner Scholl's resignation, and those of us attempting to hold him accountable are supporting your efforts. All of you, Commissioner Scholl included, called for his resignation, and we're simply trying to support you in something we all actually agree upon. A past resolution signals support of items that are indeed county business. It's hard to hide behind rhetoric that we're disruptive when we're simply mirroring back what we've heard county leadership purport as stated values. Also, I'd encourage you to flip the script on your experience of public testimony. Instead of hearing impassioned partisans holding you hostage to a meeting you'd rather end, perhaps you'd entertain the idea that the folks testifying are brave citizens of the county you represent, standing up for human decency and inclusion for all. I would hope you hear the vulnerability and courage amongst those willing to share their personal stories, particularly when folks' identity, like mine, coincides with Commissioner Scholl's targeted hate speech. And perhaps you'd entertain gratitude that you represent a county in which large groups of residents coalesce swiftly to stand firmly and with pride in allyship with marginalized communities, hurt and threatened by the words and beliefs of an elected representative. These efforts fill me with pride and gratitude for our community. And I hope you're able to find a way to share in this pride and gratitude with me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mitra. I will go ahead and move on to the next. Up next, we have Sarah Zager. Sarah, if you can unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you, Council. My name is Sarah Zager, and I live in Milwaukee in Clackamas County. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army. My MOS, or my occupational specialty, was a 68 kilo, or medical laboratory specialist. I apologize. I wanted to share a quote from a captain. Sorry, I have my notes all scattered. This is the first time I've ever given testimony before. There are only 2 ways Islam gives us to deal with it: isolation in the lands of Islam, or extermination outside the lands of Islam. This is a quote from Captain Mark Scholl from 1985. That was over 35 years ago. I'm turning 35 this year. He does clarify, I have been saying this for 35 years now. There is nothing to point only in the direction that these comments were only directed to his combat experiences, and there's everything to suggest that he means any and all Muslims, including those in his own community, his own county, his own country, the domestic population. He's referred to Muslims American Muslims as invaders. He's referred to American Muslims as monsters, and Muslim politicians as monsters. Mark Scholl has held these beliefs for longer than I have been alive, so excuse me if I am skeptical of his true intention to change or to make decisions for the citizens of Clackamas County in an unbiased, unbigoted manner. Thank you for your time. I would love to be able to say that I feel represented by my county commission, that I have faith in the equity of your decisions. However, as it stands, with Mark Scholl still sitting on the board, I can't say that. And I hope that one day that I can. And if I have a minute extra here, I was told growing up through JROTC, civics class, Girl Scouts, I'm a lifetime member, that I should be, the importance of being involved in my local government, and it's dismaying to see the attempted suppression of public comment by the board over the past few weeks, from the movement of the public comment section to the end of the meeting, and to the attempt earlier today to limit public testimony to 30 minutes, which would have limited us to 10 people. I believe that you need to listen to your constituents. And again, thank you. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sarah.
Comment has not been limited to 30 minutes. You are mistaken.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to Jane London. Jane, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, hello, this is Jane Linden, and I am from Milwaukee.
I just wanted to take a moment today to say for the record in rebuttal to that, Tootie, really quickly, that I saw the agenda. I have a screenshot of the agenda from earlier today that was limiting the testimony to 30 minutes. And I know that that was changed, but many people have seen that. So that might be something that you just want to be aware of. So my comments are as followed. Tootie, Mark, Sonia, Martha, and Paul, as much as we might all like to pretend that personalities, politics, and power don't exist in these nonpartisan halls of decision-making, we have to be honest and admit that our lives are all deeply interconnected. Just because you do or say things off the clock does not mean that they have no effect on the larger body politic. Our society, our businesses, our governments are all products of our collective and individual decisions, like where we choose to spend our time, what we choose to amplify with our voices, and how we take responsibility for our choices. I invite all of you to ask yourselves, as our leaders in business and county affairs, what do leaders of a society that works look like? What do they act like? If we are to move forward, united and with common purpose, we need a clear vision that elevates kindness, courage, intelligence, and fairness. It is within true diversity that health and life flourishes. From the bacteria living in our digestive systems to the variety of organisms present in our soil, the more variance we have, the more adaptable and resilient we become. Limiting public testimony to 30 minutes or confining it to strict guidelines of subject matter is like pouring gasoline on the ground you're going to plant a garden in. It's not a recipe for a healthy diet of democracy. Allowing hate speech and overriding long-established rules for collective decision-making are akin to monocropping until all the nutrients have been leached from the soil, leaving it depleted and unproductive. Calling for our leaders to cultivate an environment where biodiversity can flourish through different cultures, different skin color, and different religions and beliefs is not partisan, it's life-affirming. Asking that our leaders embody practices, words, and deeds that support life isn't political, it's logical. When I spoke last week, I unintentionally misquoted the amount of money Mr. Schull took in campaign contributions from Timber Unity, yet the point stands regardless of the dollar amount. Who we choose to give our attention to matters. What we choose to focus our words on matters. I am simply asking that the Board of Commissioners get very clear as a group how they plan to create a county where diversity can flourish instead of flounder. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. We will go ahead and move on to the next. Yvonne Lazarus, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes. Are you there, Yvonne? Okay.
I'm here.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. Well, I have a lot of things written down, but I cannot believe what I am hearing out there. I can't believe it. You know, last week, I can't remember the mother's name, but the little girl's name was Wren. And when I heard that little voice, I thought, why is a child being brought into this? This is a political move. You know, I want to say to her, honey, your grandfather doesn't have to be afraid. We live in a democracy, not a dictatorship. That means we agree to disagree. That's why we vote on things. You know, the last time we voted for commissioners to come in, that should have been a peaceful transfer. This going on in this board is disgusting in my mind, from all these people that come on and just hammer this man. This man has a right to be whom he is, the same as all of you have the right to be who you are. you know, he's been bullied, he's been threatened. I can't imagine people threatening people on the commissioners board. I cannot imagine that. How can they think clearly? Any of them. And the people that have called in about people that are working around him, that makes me think, I can't believe people do stuff like this. I just can't. You know, I went into a budget meeting and I saw I think her name's Wilda Parks, and she asked that this man's wages be stopped. I want to know, do we know if Wilda Parks got this idea herself or if it came from someone else? Because I want that answered. I was going to answer it for myself, but I'm not going to. I would like to have an answer from somebody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. We will go ahead and move on to the next. Sorry, just one second. Anna, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes. Anna, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Thank you so much. Hello, commissioners. My name is Ana Tijerina Esquino. I am a citizen living in Milwaukee, an engineering intern registered with the state of Oregon, and a concerned constituent. Today, I wanted to begin by explaining some of the science behind COVID transmission and mitigation, as I believe it is important for all of our commission to understand. First off, there is strong evidence for airborne transmission of COVID. Every time an infected person talks, coughs, or simply breathes, they release a mist of particles which contain the COVID virus. People are most infectious right before showing symptoms of the disease. Aerosol transmission can happen at a short range or long range. Aerosols emitted from coughs have been shown to spray from 22 to 27 feet. And this is not even considering the fact that the smaller aerosol particles can stay suspended in the air for large periods of time, ready to be inhaled by another that is susceptible. Masks can play a vital role in reducing the number of COVID-carrying aerosols that we all release into our shared airspace. So to touch on the great question that Commissioner Savas posted last week, yes, you should still wear a mask even if you are over 6 feet away from another person. Masks are most effective when they fit snugly against your face and cover your nose and mouth. The CDC now suggests we double up on masks or use filters to increase the filtration effectiveness. The traditional surgical mask has significant leakage, and that decreases efficiency. Additionally, ventilation with either filtration or disinfection can greatly reduce long-range aerosol transmission, as poor ventilation can leave stagnant air filled with COVID-carrying aerosols in indoor spaces. You can make DIY air purifiers with a box fan and MERV 11 or better filters, and those have been found to be of comparable efficiency as manufactured air filtration systems. Lastly, and this is to respond to a recommendation in 2D's COVID paper, absolutely do not suggest that individuals use UV lights or wands to disinfect themselves. Not only is the efficiency of these items unproven, but more importantly, UVC light is extremely hazardous to human health. Lastly, and most importantly, I want to end my comment by asserting that racism is not a political matter. Mark Scholl, your comments which have come to light are vile. They're vile and they were many, frequent, and pervasive. This is not a small mistake that any one of us could make. The amount and nature of your comments tell something about your character and your priorities, and they should disqualify you from serving as a public official. That a man that said those comments makes over $8 grand a month in Clackamas taxpayer money is a travesty. For the people of the county and for our community, I ask you to resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. We'll go ahead and move on to the next. Looks like it's Les Poole. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Hey, good evening. Les Poole, I live in Gladstone. I'm the guy that pushed and pushed and pushed for communication and nonpartisanship and evening meetings. I'm sure Commissioner Savas remembers well when I told him I'm going to get evening meetings. he told me good luck. Evening meetings were taken away in 2017 by Chair Bernard. First thing he got rid of. And now we're hearing all kinds of comments about public comment being limited, and that's a very sensitive issue for me and obviously for the callers. I don't really think that's Chair Smith's intent here. And obviously you have a business meeting and business to conduct. And while I'd like to speak early in the meeting, if I have to wait, so be it. A couple of brief comments about some of the things we've been hearing in the last few weeks. Not a defense of Commissioner Scholl, but questioning some of the extreme charges or extreme statements I'm hearing in terms of his conduct and actions as a commissioner. And I would like to hereby request, if there's a way to get this, all of the things that he has done that were racist or offensive or that are creating problems in that building as a commissioner. Then we'll place that up with a list next to what's gone on with the extreme partisan leadership and the conduct and treatment of individuals year after year by the former chair. And make no mistake, Mark Scholl and Tootie Smith were probably outspent dramatically. They were challengers. The reason they won is that the people that were here before them were doing a lousy job. And of course, all of it was enabled with our smiling PR, and it was all just fine and dandy. Well, it wasn't. We were upside down financially. And we talk about morale. Morale wasn't very good there when all kinds of folks left and Gary took over this freaking mess. So I'm a little disturbed by the fact that all of a sudden people all show up and they're coming unglued about some things someone probably shouldn't have written or said, and they haven't shown any grace for that person. Instead, it's automatic, he's got to go, because I think it's probably because he's a member of the wrong party. Now, I am not here defending anything, but I've seen so much hypocrisy in my years in that building, and morale wasn't that great before Mr. Scholl showed up. So let's not pretend it was. And I'm going to close with two very, very quick requests. One of them is I would like to see people show up and condemn the violence and lunacy that has gone on in Portland that has dramatically damaged our industry, destroyed our tourism, and just really given us a black eye. We keep hearing that Mark Scholl is the reason why we're suffering, and it's ridiculous. So I would really appreciate a resolution or statement from the county condemning that lunacy.
Okay, Les,
not just what went on at the Capitol. So let's get that done. And next week, we'll talk about the wonderful vehicle registration fee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Les. We'll go ahead and move on to the next. We have Cornelia Gibson. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to let me talk tonight. My name is Cornelia Gibson. I have lived in Wilsonville for the last 25 years. I am here tonight to ask Mr. Mark Scholl to do the honorable thing and to resign from his leadership role on the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. I have 2 teenage granddaughters who also live here in Clackamas County, nearby. Anyway, their father is a Muslim from Turkey. He is a gentle, loving, open-minded man. And I feel, Mr. Scholl, that your anti-Muslim, bigoted, and racist opinions that are expressed in your innumerable statements are evidence of your very deep convictions. These are convictions that cannot be overcome by empty excuses. I'm afraid your strong and inflammatory convictions permeate your thinking and thereby your actions. Now, I cannot trust that your actions for all the citizens in Clackamas County will ever be impartial. Your strong, embedded, and internalized convictions will be reflected in your actions with opinions such as, when you interact with a Muslim, you are being deceived. That's one of your statements. I do not want my granddaughters, nor any other child of Muslim, brown, or Black background or heritage to be exposed to the negative example you represent. Our youngsters need to develop emotional self-worth and pride in their heritage and background. Mr. Shaw, you unjustly hold a position of important leadership. Had those opinions, your opinions, been known during the campaign, I very much doubt you would have garnered this position. You were cunning enough to conceal your strong anti-Muslim and racist opinions from the voters. Your inner convictions denigrate entire swaths of people here in Clackamas County and are hurtful to your constituents. They are hurtful to people like myself and my granddaughters. You, Mr. Shaw, with your deeply held convictions, I implore you to resign from this leadership role. Thank you.
Thank you, Cornelia. We'll go ahead and move on to the next. We have Willie Poinsetti. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Willie Poinsetti, and I'm a resident of Lake Oswego. I've lived here for 34.5 years, and I am a retired school principal. I come before you tonight to express my concern that Mark Schull is one of our elected officials, despite his very personal negative posts about Islam, Muslims, Black Lives Matter, and immigrants. Mr. Schull, words matter. These postings reveal the side of Mark Schull that the public in general did not know. They revealed his prejudices and provoked fear in many people. Mark Schull used words to describe his feelings and beliefs that worry me as an African-American woman who spends each day of my life, I want you to know, fighting for social and racial justice. Mark Schull, on the other hand, uses words that are based on narratives of white supremacy and fuels conspiracy theories. We have seen this firsthand, how these narratives have played out most recently in our country. Mark Schull, you should resign now. Thank you.
Thank you, Willie. Sorry about the last name, Poinsett. We'll get that right next time.
Not a problem.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to CMOB. Go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Greetings, Chair Smith, respected commissioners, Administrator Terwilliger. Hi, Mark. My name is Simab Husseini, and I use he, him pronouns. I am also the co-founder of a Muslim civil rights organization in Oregon, Muslim immigrant refugee community organizer, and civil rights advocate. I believe that checks off most but 2 boxes for Mark, as I am not Black or LGBTQIA+. For a living, I advocate for victims of those emboldened by hateful rhetoric. My biggest accolades are being a father and husband, you know, human type stuff. Today's agenda includes topics of behavioral health, community development, health centers, social services, transportation development, disaster management, things that require the benefit of not one human being left out. Mark Schull is not fit for office. Schull never thought that frank and uncensored discussions on Facebook would be seen by people other than those they were directed at specifically, said the Oregonian article. Show of hands over here, please, if for anyone who's read Schull's hateful posts. Any hands? Well, to help, let me read one for you. Stop the enemy while the enemy's strength is still relatively weak in comparison to friendly forces. He goes on to refer to Chapter 6 of The Art of War, Sun Tzu, and the FM 30 operations. then continues. Most menacing threat to U.S. national security is the incursion of Islam into our society. 78 years ago, the USA entered a war to destroy a threat that had a doctrine that was contrary to the security of the American people and the world. We turned that threat into grease puddle. Yet today, our society refuses to acknowledge the new threat, the threat that does not use military industrial might, but uses an old Arabian Peninsula Wahhabi concept called jihad. It is time for a new D-Day, one that is appropriate for the threat. Be, know, do. Yet he conflates the confidence of the US Constitution being versus Sharia law. This diluted theory, after the fact of a supposed Muslim community apology, means that you have done nothing to undo the harmful lies you believe in and have shared widely with your followers and adherents. This is just some of the consolation that he receives currently right now on his social media. Don't let the cancel culture garbage get to you. Don't let the Democrats push you out.
I'm sorry, sir. We have reached our
Crips and Bloods thing.
we have reached our 3-minute time limit.
Mark Shull, my family, my Muslim
Mr.
community, and I
Seema,
are
we have reached our
disgusted. This
3-minute
level
time
of
limit.
intolerance
Thank you,
is
Christina.
abhorrent. You are a threat to our community and a danger to them too.
Thank you, Mr. Seema. We will go ahead and move on to the next caller. Sahara, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. So first, I'd like to just start by thanking everyone who was able to make it to attendance tonight. I understand these late night meetings are sometimes difficult for everyone to make it to. But I'd like to start out by saying that it's kind of like that Tootie Smith has decided to try and limit public opinions on this political process and this general testimony. It makes me wonder if the reasoning behind that is because some folks think that some voices matter more than others. But as a Republican of Clackamas County, it just seems kind of out of character to try and limit freedom of speech in the public process. And I feel like a lot of Republican constituents might take up a serious issue with that. It seems to go against many values. It's an important part of the political process, after all. But also as part of this political process, it seems that the citizens of Clackamas County are almost unanimous in the idea that Mark Shull needs to do the honorable thing and go. He is an official, as someone said earlier, he's someone that we elected without all of the information behind him. He's even quoted as saying that, as Islam grows, the noose around the neck of our society tightens. He didn't say that this last July, but the July before. But I would like to point out that because of these views he has, he might be responsible for the next hate crime that happens in Oregon, the Portland metro area. He might be quoted by, someone who decides to, repeat history like we saw in 2017 and stab 2 people on a MAX train just because of the color of their skin. We don't need this. I would call for Mark Shull to resign and do the honorable thing, and also to think very carefully about who he wants to be quoted by.
Sahara, this is not a political forum. This is a board of governance and a nonpartisan board of elected county commissioners according to Oregon revised statutes and county code. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Sahara.
No, certainly. Thank you.
And we have one last caller, Drew McKenzie. Go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes. Are you there, Drew?
Yes, I'm sorry. Are you
There we
guys
go.
able to hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. My name is Drew McKenzie, calling to you guys from Wilsonville. And the following statement was received from a county employee who felt that they could not present it in person for fear of retribution. For me personally, I've been generally full of angst, frustration, and deep sadness at work. It feels like a betrayal from not only this person, but in a way from the very people I'm working for, the folks in Clackamas County. I've worked for the county for years, and I've had some really shitty experiences of inequality, harassment, and discrimination, and the county took zero responsibility in any of the times I've had issues. This is a top-down leadership issue. They talk a big talk about equity and caring for the employees, but when it comes to the numbers, it is a business, and business does not like conflict. I think there is a level of fear, especially from management, about talking about Mr. Scholl. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. And that is the end of the hands raised, so I think we can move on.
Thank you, Christine. I appreciate your taking care of that for us. I will now close the public communication portion of this meeting. We will move on. Gary Schmidt, what's our next item?
Next is County Administrator Update, which is from me, and I always like to share some good things happening at county government and by our county employees, and I have some examples of that today for you. First, during this pandemic, our health, housing, and human services staff in social services and behavioral health divisions have given out a limited supply of computers to those people in extreme need in our county. These computers were purchased using CARES Act funding, specifically designated for older adults impacted by COVID. The goal is to help people struggling with increased isolation and loneliness by providing them computers. Here are two examples. One recipient of a computer from the county had a 15-year-old computer that could not be updated. He and his son were unable to afford a new computer, and they had recently experienced devastating losses of loved ones. When the gentleman received a call from the county notifying him he was a recipient of a new computer, our staff described his reaction as this. First, he was silent, then he was overjoyed, and then relief that he was finally able to improve things for him and his family because of the computer we gave to him. Next, an elderly low-income couple with extensive health issues had a 10-year-old computer that constantly crashed and would not accept updates. They relied on their computer along with their adult son who lost his job due to COVID. As a family, they were unable to make ends meet and stretching money as best they could just to pay their rent. When they got the call from the county that they were receiving a computer, the wife hollered with happiness, being elated with joy and thrilled to be able to connect to the world again. She also knew that her son would be able to set up the computer for her. Once the computer was set up, she burst out with laughter and said, "Now I can get on YouTube and you can look up anything on YouTube." So thank you to our staff who are able to provide these computers to just two examples of people in our community. Next, our transportation and development staff continues to receive positive feedback from the community. The latest came from Dan Cunningham, who is the owner of Cunningham Construction in Boring. Mr. Cunningham has been in the septic installation and excavating business for many years, and he has worked with our septic and on-site wastewater staff in the Department of Transportation and Development. Mr. Cunningham recently commented that after 30 years of installing septic systems in Clackamas County, our county crew, led by soil scientist Aaron Dennis, provided the best service he's ever received by the Clackamas County Septic Department. So considering Dan's 30 years of experience, that is a great compliment. So thank you to Aaron Dennis and the rest of our team in the septic and on-site wastewater system in our Department of Transportation and Development, led by Supervisor Eric Engelbert. And then finally, Commissioners, as you know, we're having a weather event here in the Clackamas County, Portland area right now as we speak and into this weekend. Our staff continues to work diligently even during the weather events. Of course, our Sheriff's Office, our 911 Center, our road crews will continue working as they have regardless of the treachery of the weather. And we know that we'll still be able to serve our public despite what the snow or ice may bring. So I just want to assure all of the public that we are here to serve you and will continue doing so. That is my update, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. We will continue with Commissioner communication. I believe Commissioner Scholl, you're up next.
Yes, good evening, Chair Smith. Good evening, commissioners and those that are on the meeting tonight. In view of the weather that's coming in, I would like to just pass a public safety little note here, and that is regarding the warming shelters in the county that are open tonight. There's the Malala Warming Center on 920 Shirley Street, the Father's Heart Street Ministry Warming Center on 603 12th Street in Oregon City, the Hope City Warming Shelter at 5197 Southeast King Road in Milwaukee. And for folks that know of anybody who might need shelter from the weather in the Estacada area, there's an Estacada food bank. I'm going to give you a link to the phone numbers. And in Sandy, the Ant Farm. And also for our veterans, if you might know a veteran who's homeless tonight, we have the Fort Kennedy Veterans Center at 7600 Johnson Creek Boulevard. And for phone numbers to these places, go to www.clackamas.us/social services/relief centers, and you'll get points of contact for these warming shelters and also phone numbers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to thank everyone again. Last week, I thanked a number of volunteers who had volunteered unselfishly, and in light of the weather and the freezing temperatures that we have upon us, talked to a number of people this week that have contributed food and sleeping bags and a number of things to help people right now through this inclement weather. And just another reminder of all the people that are doing a lot of hard work unselfishly. They're digging in their own pockets to help others, and it's just a very warming feeling that there is so much compassion for others, and there's so many people doing good things unselfishly again to just help people in need. Speaking to a lot of people this week also about the number of children in Clackamas County that are living in poverty, and actually in the entire region that are living in poverty. And it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad when we talk about when the schools were closed. A number of the K through 12 schools had nutrition programs both for beginning of school in the morning and in the afternoon. And that's really created another hardship when the schools are not really open. So there's a lot more stress on our children probably than ever before. And I'm just grateful that there is some help out there, and I just urge everyone to continue helping others and being thoughtful of others, and thank everyone for being considerate and being compassionate. And that's what I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Fisher, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I think a lot of us have been concerned with the weather and those that are unsheltered and struggling, and the incredible efforts, Gary, that our staff have made to operationalize. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who's been working so hard, and to all of our volunteers. So I think that tonight was really, it's really hard. It's really hard to be in this moment. And in some ways, I'm just so very saddened. And in other ways, I capture some of the comments of one of our first speakers about celebrating the strength of our community in coming forward and sharing for a better tomorrow. And in many ways, I am thankful for Mark Scholl in the sense that we are having an incredibly important dialogue in our community And Chair Smith, I appreciate you. I know that this is uncomfortable, but I appreciate you being open about it, talking with our commission. And then we have this dialogue tonight. And so I want to thank you for your leadership there. I think that it is really hard. So in all of that, we all know that this is Black History Month, and I've been spending some time with the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and his letter from the Birmingham jail. There's this one section that it's really spoken to me during this time, and I just want to share it briefly and then kind of share what my thoughts are and challenge my board. So it goes. First, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the white citizens counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, that in our days would be the Proud Boys or the alt-right, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. So I bring that up because it requires me to look at myself and think of all the times when something is just so uncomfortable, when some situation happens that is so uncomfortable. Gary, I think back when we were in Washington, D.C., and we both overheard somebody say something terrible about a person that was leading us around, and we heard a comment, oh, so they let you out of the shackles to come. And we both just kind of looked at one another, and we didn't address it in that moment. We talked about it, we caucused about it, we thought about it, and then I personally talked to that person and just said how that made me feel. And that person got it and apologized, and we had that moment. But I couldn't address it in the moment. I preferred a negative peace in that moment. And I do this a lot. It seems I go from a negative peace to almost full throttle of just such deep anger and concern when I see people being marginalized and pushed aside in our community. And so I really want to challenge my board. And Gary, I need you, Gary, I need you to help us, for us to each figure out and go on the journey of how do we effectively interrupt racism in a way that is with grace and with love and with dialogue, but in a way that moves us forward. Because that, as Martin Luther King Jr. says, that is how we get to the presence of justice.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. I assume you're done. Okay, Commissioner Schrader, you're up. Commissioner Schrader, would you mute yourself, please?
I'm muted. Yes, I'm muted. Well, thank all of you tonight. It has been very challenging for me personally because, as you know, I have an interracial family and I've dealt with that for years. And I have experienced racial discrimination firsthand. And I do appreciate what Commissioner Fisher has said, but it is a little different when you personally have to deal with marginalization of a child who I will tell you has survived quite well. And then I have a nephew who is African-American, great nephew actually. And I know that he's just a toddler, but I'm expecting, he'll have those challenges as well. So here's what I feel about this, and here's what I've been doing personally to try and get through this time of rage against everyone. First of all, I can't get enraged. I don't have the energy for rage. I go to my Benedictine community. I'm a member of the Fellowship of Reconciliation. Right now, I'm reading a book about wisdom and what that means in our culture. And I think the biggest thing I've been thinking about lately in all of this turmoil we're facing is, particularly in Black History Month, is how we are merciful towards one another. And I really think that we can talk about peace, and you can't have peace without justice, but you can't have justice without being merciful towards one another. And I think it's our duty as a commission to be merciful towards our colleagues and to be merciful towards the people who are feeling so pained and upset. But if we don't carry mercy in our hearts, we're never going to get through this. I think what I've been most upset about, given the guidelines that I try to live my life by, is that the rage has taken over forgiveness and mercy. And I know that I'm going to get hit on this because people don't really want to hear about that right now. People just want to be angry. They want to be angry with us. They want to be angry with each other. There's a lot of pain out there. I lived it, I know it. But unless we start practicing merciful behaviors and forgiving one another, we're not. It's just going to keep roiling around in this vortex of rage. So I want to tell our residents tonight and our citizens who testified, for me, it's not about moderation. It's about how I live my life and how I refuse to give in to rage. But I will do what I can to be kind and merciful and decent. It's not going to be popular. I always tell people sometimes our job is to take the tomatoes, right? And we're sure getting people with baskets of tomatoes and they're kind of, and rightfully so. I don't mind that. But I will caution people that if you get consumed by your anger and your rage, it will eat you alive. And it will not move us forward to where we need to be as a county, as a state, and as a nation. And I say that as someone who's experienced the same level of pain. I didn't like it when my son came home crying because he looked different. I mean, you know, and people would say I'm a white woman of privilege. I'll take that. I don't like it when our Muslim friends feel as if they're frightened. I feel just such profound sadness that we have staff now that are feeling threatened and marginalized. And I'm here to tell you, I will not ever threaten or marginalize anybody. But we have to move towards one another with compassion and forgiveness. And it's the hardest, most difficult thing that we will ever do, because oftentimes it's not in our nature. We get upset, we get angry, and then we can't move forward. So that is my message to our constituents tonight, to our residents. I certainly will invite everyone who wants to talk to me, who wants to have a conversation about this and how we can move this together, to call me at the county offices. 655-8581, ask for Tracy. I'd be glad to have personal conversations with people. And maybe as a county, and we need to have a conversation about this. But remember, you can't have justice without peace. You cannot have justice and peace without mercy. And I think we're lacking a lot of merciful, I think we're lacking that towards one another right now. And I would suggest during Black History Month that this is where we need to be going. Other than that, I'm just going to tell you a few things I've said. So that's my personal statement tonight. I did attend this morning Transportation and Economic Development on behalf of the Willamette Falls Locks this morning. Our Clackamas delegation is moving really forward, full speed ahead with that. And I think we're going to make it this time. And thank you, Chair Smith, because you were a key player in that. And I'm kind of the backup with this, but thank you for your work with that. I also attended a meeting with the North Willamette Research Extension Center. And they are in our presence, commissioners. We've talked about food sheds, we've talked about agriculture. They're kind of our point people to move all of that forward for us. They do berry research, they do bee research, they do Christmas trees. They really are the anchor of agriculture in the North Willamette Valley. And good news for me, I know that I had wanted to do a pollination initiative, okay, because I'm an entomologist by profession. And I know that the county, we're kind of, I don't want to have the county take on something big. But what I did do is I did sign up with the Oregon Extension Service to be cooperating with them on pulling together the Oregon Bee Atlas. So I will be taking classes and programs to collect these creatures, beautiful creatures, identifying them. I'll be retaking taxonomy classes. And I will be hopefully again, one more time, an expert entomologist in my field. And that is going to give me a lot of joy and a lot of fun because I'll be out in the field and it will really actually help us move a county pollination initiative forward at no cost, Gary. I might say no cost to the county. Except my fees, my books. I'm doing that on my own. But hopefully what I do with that will inform everything else we do when it comes to sustainability and ecology and farming and all the other good stuff we want to do. So thank you all. It's been a trying week, but we're all going to get through it. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. I appreciate your comments. I could not have said it better. For me, they were very heartfelt and very meaningful, and I identify highly with them. And I'm really glad that you're here on our board. I have three things I want to talk about. I mentioned earlier that we had a call with the governor. We, meaning the chairs across Oregon from the county commissions. I'm not going to go over everything, but she brought some interesting facts forward. She understands there's confusion around the vaccination, I think. But she did say one thing, that Oregon is 12th in the nation on receiving the amount of vaccinations. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, because if we're 12th, that means there's a lot of states that have a lot less vaccinations than we do with the higher population of people to receive them. Just do a little math there. She also said in order to distribute the vaccination, she was going to call out about 30 additional National Guard troops to get shots in the arms of people who want them. She says the case counts are dropping, but she says the vax is not the reason for those cases dropping, because we just obviously have just been receiving it. Regarding economics in the COVID shutdown, she is dedicated to opening schools, and we know she has made that a priority. Many of the commissioners across Oregon have voiced their concerns about the high suicide rate, especially among high schoolers, as the isolation continues to creep in. And she says she's dedicated to getting our schools open. She also did say it was a local decision of the schools to do it, and that Oregon has received $490 million from Congress to help in that effort. Moving on to my third thing. Yesterday, I drove out of my driveway onto a county road, a well-maintained county road, and I saw these wonderfully striped marks of liquid painted on them, and that's called magnesium chloride. It's anti-icing agent they put on the roads in anticipation of this weekend snowstorms. That lasts until, my understanding, until enough moisture takes it away. but I was very thankful for that. And as I drove through the county, I noticed that agent on the rest of them. And it's just really interesting, the technology they can use nowadays to keep our roads safe and clear of ice and snow. I have a huge shout out to WES, the Water Environment Services. They have saved ratepayers $8.6 million in a very shrewd bond sale. They came to the commission asking to sell bonds at 3.5% interest to cover some debt. And they decided that's kind of too high. We're going to wait. So they tried to negotiate for a AAA bond rating, which is the highest of Standard & Poor's for revenue bond issuance. And they were hoping to get a 1.5 true cost goal. But upon the sale of their bonds on the open market, they received 13 bids, which is very high market interest. And that says that Clackamas County is indeed a very good investment for investors. And they ended up getting an interest rate, are you ready for this? 0.84%, saving ratepayers over $8 million. I want to say thank you for their leadership and their participation. And it has made a significant difference to keep rates as low as possible to the people in the area who are enjoying WES services. With that in mind, this meeting is adjourned. I want to thank commissioners for your comments, your participation, and have a good, albeit snowy weekend.
Safe.